Hello and welcome back. This is chapter 3. We're going to continue building our factual index infographic. In the previous chapter, chapter 2, we did our initial setup. We talked about how InDesign works. We talked about how frames work and how you can resize images inside of a frame. We also did a little bit of our text features and options when it comes to creating a design inside of InDesign. So without further ado, we're going to continue on where we left off. If you didn't watch chapter 2, I recommend doing that before you watch this one. So let's get started. And we'll start the presentation here. All right, so I'm going to bring up our project to pick up right back where we left off. And what I'm going to do now is going to just touch on what we did. We have our main visual hook image as well as our main title of this infographic. And then we, of course, have our subtitle, which gives a little bit more context to what this infographic is really all about. Now, what we're going to do right off the bat this time is we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. When I say housekeeping, I mean a little bit of file management. So I want you to roll your mouse over. Make sure you're in your normal selection tool. I want you to roll your mouse over to the layers panel. And the layers panel is, of course, docked to our panel's sidebar there. You'll notice that everything we did in the last chapter, I'm going to click on this little arrow right here where it says layer 1. This is everything that we did. We have a rectangle, we have some text, and then, of course, we have our image. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create some file management here. Now, layer 1, what we're going to do is we're going to double click on layer 1. This allows you to rename a layer. And it's going to bring up this pop-up right here. Now, you can name this layer whatever you want. In this case, because we have images, we're going to have text, we're going to have some data viz. I'm going to name this one, we're going to do text. And by the way, just like Illustrator, if you see the little frame options and they're very hard to see, you can change that layer style to a different color. By default, this one is light blue, but you can have a variety of other ones that you can use if it's really hard to see, like the bounding box or selections. I'm going to keep it the light blue for now. So we have text. I'm going to click on OK. And that labels that layer as text. Now let's create another new parent layer. This is a parent layer. These are just sublayers inside a parent. Let's create another parent layer. This little button right here, it's a little square with a plus, very similar to Illustrator. Click on that, and that's going to give you a layer 2. So another blank parent layer to work on. We're going to double click where it says layer 2. And we're going to label this one images. I hit enter, by the way. So when you hit enter and you're in this dialog box, it'll automatically hit like the OK button for you. So images, I just hit enter and we have images now labeled. And if you look at what's inside of text right here, these two belong. These two belong in there because they're actual text. But this rectangle and military base really are image assets. So I'm going to drag military base. I'm going to click, hold, and drag, and I'm going to drag it to where you see that little thin gray line that's under our image's parent, and I'm going to let go. And what that did was it moved that layer to that correct parent layer. I'm going to do the same with the rectangle. I know a rectangle is not really an image, but technically it is. So I'm going to go ahead and also put that click, hold, and drag into our images parent. And that's pretty well organized right there. We have text, we have images. Since we're here, we're going to create another parent layer. So let's click on the plus icon down at the bottom. There's our layer 3. I'm going to move this one at the top here. So if you click on a parent layer, you click, hold, and drag, and you drag it up or down, you can actually move it to the order that you want it. So I just moved layer 3 to be the topmost layer. I'm going to double click on where it says layer 3, and I'm going to rename this one to, let's do data VIZ. So data viz, visualization. So these are going to house things like charts, graphs, maybe potentially map pieces. Those are what's known as a data visualization. And I'm just going to click on OK this time. And there we go. Now we don't have any data viz yet, so this can just be, contain nothing for now. Now, just like in Illustrator, these little blank boxes next to these eyeballs right here will lock layers up or individual sublayers. So you can lock a parent layer, or you can lock individual layers by just clicking in this little blank space right here. This will toggle the lock on and off. Additionally, these eyeballs will toggle the visibility on or off. So if I zoom out a little bit and I punch out that eyeball, I always refer to it like that. I click on the eyeball and I'm clicking on the parent text layer. Notice how it disappears. It's not actually gone, but if I click it again, it comes back. It's just the visibility on and off. This can be very useful, especially if you have very complex designs. You may need to lock some layers, hide some layers, so you don't accidentally like move layers or things around to, make it easier in the design workspace. All right, so I think that's all the file management we need to do for now. That's looking good. You have something like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on these two little arrows that go to the right and just hide that for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a custom color sampling, and we're going to turn them into swatches. Now, it's important when you design an infographic is number one, do the research, right? So you researched everything, you have good planning, and you can start cooking on your design, but you also want to have a good color scheme that goes along with that information. Having a color scheme is very important for an infographic because it makes the design look professional, it makes it look cohesive. So many ways to create a color scheme. You can create them, from the DOM, essentially. If you want to, you can use Adobe Color to help you pick out a color theme, or there's a tool inside of this program, and try this out with me. At the toolbar here, above the magnifying glass, there's this little eyedropper tool right here. Long press on your left mouse click, and you'll see the different types of eyedropper options. And there's a measurement tool as well in here. I want you to select the one that says Color Theme Tool. This is super cool because what this does will give you a range of colors based on an image inside of your document. So I want to make my color scheme match my visual hook, meaning the largest image in my infographic. I can use this Color Theme Tool to help me select a range of colors to appropriately fill everything else out in my infographic. So let's select the Color Theme Tool and just hover over the main image. Just hover, don't click anything. You'll notice that there is this red bounding box that goes basically alongside the entire image. And this is saying to InDesign, hey, I want a color theme based on what's inside this frame right here. In this case, being this image right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click one time. It already pulled it up for me anyway, but I'm going to click one time on the image. Okay, and what this is going to do is it's going to give you this little panel right here. This panel right here gives us a range of colors based on the average colors in this illustration. And this works with anything, by the way. And we have 5 swatches that we can use for, say, text color, for rectangle colors, shape colors, whatever you want to use it for. It gives you a custom theme without even going to an outside source. That's why one of the reasons why I love this program. Now, how do we add this to our swatches panel? On the right here, you'll see this little checkerboard with a plus symbol. This is going to add this entire theme, so all these sampled colors right here, to our swatches panel. So let's click on this right quick, left click one time, and let's mosey on over to swatches, the panel. And if you look at our swatches panel here and scroll down, you'll notice that it by default, it says colorful theme. If you uncollapse this folder, you'll see all of those colors that were sampled. So we can use them immediately. I like it. Now, you don't have to specifically name your custom swatches anything, but in this case, let's do it anyway. Where it says colorful theme, I'm going to double click and I'm going to name this, we'll name it infographic colors, just so it's nice and organized. That group will be named and you can name it anything. In this case, infographic colors fits the bill, and I'll click on OK and it'll change it for me. Fantastic. Now let's roll on over to the selection tool, regular selection tool again. So that little theme panel will disappear, but our swatches will remain. I'm going to actually, the rectangle that we made in chapter 2, I'm going to click on this one and use one of our sampled colors here to match this, to match our main image. So I'm going to click on the rectangle one time, and you can click on any one of your swatches here to change it to that color. So I kind of like this really dark brown that it sampled for me. So I'm going to click on that one and it'll instantly change the color. How cool is that? Additionally, I'm also going to change, because it kind of like almost like simulates the ground. I like that. And I'm going to change this rectangle right here that had text inside that holds our subtitle. I'm going to change this to, I'm going to change it to this kind of like lighter brown here. It's the one that it sampled for me. It's the 5th sample. Again, color choice is going to be up to you. So I'm choosing this a little bit darker of a brown right here for my subtitle rectangle. And what I'm going to do now is, because it's a little bit dark, so we have black text and kind of like a dark color brown for the rectangle. I'm going to change this text to a paper color or white, essentially, to give it a little bit of that contrast. So if I triple click 1, 2, 3, that's going to select all the text for me. And by the way, when you triple click, and even though you're not in the text tool, it selects all your text and it will automatically jump to your text tool option. Just want to point that out. I'm going to choose a different text color. I'm going to drop this guy down. And I'm going to choose what is known as paper. So paper is pure white. So hexadecimal, it's FFF, FFF. Essentially, InDesign calls pure white paper. It goes back to the days of like true desktop publishing and publishing for print. Pure white or paper white is what's known as paper. And I'm just going to click on my normal selection tool to see how it looks. Yeah, I kind of like that. It gives me a little bit of balance when it comes to color contrast. So it's easily readable. And I'm just going to close my swatches panel for now. And I kind of like that. Looks good. That looks good. Again, just to refresh your memory, if you click on a rectangle or a text area, you can move things around. I'm just going to move my subtitle. I'm going to click on that and just hit my up arrow a few times just to close in that little bit of space right there. That looks pretty good. And again, that's one of the benefits about having InDesign, is that it's infinitely customizable even after you type something or place an image. Cool. I like that. So we covered custom swatches, and how to sample a range of colors based on an image inside of your document. All right, I think we're ready to start creating our factual index little tidbits of information. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a new image to our document. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the layers panel. And I want you to select, so just click one time, left click one time on images. So when we place a new image, it's going to automatically add it to my images parent folder here. Because if I had text selected and I added a new image, what it's going to do is it's going to put that in the text parent layer. Now I can easily drag it out, but I'll save us a step here. Let's click on images parent. And let's go ahead and hit file all the way at the top. And we'll go to where it says place. Again, it's Control D. We want to use that. And I want you to go to your sources where it has all of our images. And the next image we're going to place inside of our document is the one that says presidents. And this one is going to be the PNG file. So it'll look like a little image icon instead of the Illustrator icon. So we're going to place a portable networks graphic, so a lossless compression file, just like a kind of like a essentially a normal image inside of this infographic. And click on open. Again, we have what is known as the loaded cursor, so I can move my cursor around, and essentially it allows me to place this image wherever I like it. So what we're going to do is we're not going to actually, we didn't add a frame. We're going to create a custom area for this image to be placed with our loaded cursor. If you left click, hold, and drag, so click, hold, and drag, it's going to drag proportionately a box that's going to contain the image. So I'm going to go ahead and make it kind of large, not too large, but something like that, and let go of my mouse. And that's going to place our presidents there. We got George Washington, we got Abe Lincoln. And what's cool about this is that we just placed a PNG file, and we just click, hold, and drag where we want the target file to be. So it's another way that you can place images inside of InDesign. And if we zoom on over to our layers panel, it added it to our parent images layer. Sweet. So once I placed it, I can always take my selection tool to remove this anywhere I want. Because essentially what this is that this is a image frame that contains our targeted image. So I'm going to put a little bit, something like you see on screen here, because we're going to add some text on top. It's going to describe this fact that we're going to be talking about. So what I'm going to do is just click anywhere in the gray space, and we're going to grab our text tool now. And I want you to make me a text frame just above those presidents right there. Starting from the left margin, make a text frame just like that. So I made a text frame, and what that did was, because it's a text frame, it gives me automatically my blinking cursor for text. Now the text for this guy is going to be, I believe it's 31 presidents, but let me check my cheat sheet. And yep, it's 31 presidents. So the font for this one is going to be Century Gothic Bold. So we're sticking with that text theme. So at the top here, top left, let's type in Century. You'll see Gothic Bold. Select that one. And the size of this is going to be 35 points. So I'm going to type in 35. So that's going to be our font size, Century Gothic Bold. And I'm going to type in 31 presidents. Cool. And again, if your text does not show up, it looks like this is because your text area is too small. So you can take your selection tool, click on the text area that you made, drag down the anchor or drag up on the anchors so you can see your text. That's kind of how this program works. Everything works with frames, and sometimes you need to resize those frames. 31 presidents, and let's go ahead and center this. So if I triple click on my text, 1, 2, 3, at the top here, I'll center my text just to give it a nice cohesive look. 31 presidents, I like it. And if I click on my selection tool, I can make pinpoint targeted movements. I'm just going to move this down with my down arrow key just a little bit like that to give a nice even amount of spacing. Again, you can adjust everything the way you want to. That looks good. Now I'm going to address a thing that probably you've noticed, and I've held out till now to say it, is that everything looks very pixelated because it is. What InDesign is doing is saving resources. So if your program's lagging, it doesn't show you the full resolution. It's kind of like how Premiere will show you, it could show you like half resolution or a quarter of a resolution in case like Premiere is lagging on you. It's the same concept. If we go up to View, I want you to find where it says Display Performance. Now under Display Performance, there's another submenu. Notice how it's on Typical Display. That's why it looks pixelated right now. It's because it's saving resources. It's like it's approximately at like a quarter resolution to like a half resolution. If we click on High Quality Display, what that's going to do is it's going to give you the full resolution of your project. But keep in mind, your computer might lag time to time. You can always go to View and switch it back to Typical Display, Display Performance, Typical Display, and it'll go back to what it was. But you can see it's looking really good. But I'm going to toggle back to Typical Display just in case my computer crashes. Also, here's another thing. These margins right here, sometimes they can get very distracting. It can be hard to say move precisely certain text elements or images. If you want a quick preview of what this thing is going to look like, what you can do is just make sure you're in your selection tool, click in the gray space. Again, that just deselects everything. Hit W on your keyboard. And what that does is it makes all the margins disappear so you can see clean what your whole infographic or whatever you're building is going to look like without the margins. So the margins are not really there. They're just kind of, they help you in the design process and laying things out. But if I hit W again, there's our margins again. I'm going to leave that on. Okay, so the next thing that we got to do is we got to add the information that goes along with the factual index tidbit of information, 31 presidents. 31 presidents what, right? So we're going to add a rectangle now underneath our presidents. So let's grab our rectangle tool. And I want you to draw me a nice rectangle underneath the presidents, something like that. What we're going to do now is we're going to change the color of our rectangle. So let's turn off the stroke. I'm going to click on the stroke square, and I'm going to click on none. And I'm going to pull up the fill panel to make sure it's in the foreground. And let's pick a sample color that we sample with. in our swatches panel. So we're going to open up swatches here, and we're going to select a color. You can pick any color you like. I'm going to select color is one of the hardest things to select for sure when creating these things. I'm going to select the darker brown, but you can select whatever color speaks to you. Okay. So I'm going to collapse my swatches panel now. And we're going to go ahead and grab the text tool, the type tool again on the toolbar. And what you're going to do is anywhere inside this rectangle, you're going to click, and that's going to give you the blinking cursor. That rectangle now becomes a text area, and it's also a rectangle. So I'm going to jump back to our data sheet here, and I'm going to grab the fact for 31 presidents. So it's right underneath presidential fact. I'm going to grab this text. I'm going to Control C to copy it. And before I paste it, let's see what font we're working with here. So this one's going to be our second font option in this document. We're only using two fonts, Century Gothic and Myriad Pro. So this one's going to be Myriad Pro. So I'm going to type in Myriad, and it's Pro Regular, Myriad Pro Regular. And the font, because it's part of the factual index, it's not too big of a font. It's a 14 point. 14, and now I'll hit Control and V. So that's Myriad Pro Regular, 14 points. So for this text, we're going to leave it left aligned. But because I'm a stickler for dark text on a dark background or light text on a light background, I'm just going to change the color of my font. I'm going to change it to paper, just to give me a little bit more contrast. And what we're going to do now is we are going to give it some inset spacing. Notice because we put text inside of our shape, it rides the line of the shape. And we never really want this because, again, it could look jarring, a little amateurish. So we're going to give it just a little bit of inset spacing or padding. So hold down Control and hit Bravo. That's going to give us our text frame options. And what you're going to do is you're going to give a little bit of spacing. For this one, we're only going to do one click. So one click is 0.0625. Very, very minimal, but it should give us the right amount of spacing for this fact right here. The 0.0625 all around, and I click on OK and see what it did. Give us a little bit of padding so it looks nice and uniform. The next thing is I am not a fan of hyphens. See how some of our text is hyphened off here to continue on? It makes it harder to read. So we're going to take off these hyphens. And it's actually a very, very easy way to do it instead of manually trying to resize the shape or like putting spaces in between the text itself. I'm going to hit Control and Alpha. That's Control and Alpha. That's going to select all the text. And I'm going to jump on over to my paragraph panel that we added. Open that up. And at the bottom here, there's a little hyphenate that's checked by default. I'm going to uncheck that. And what that's going to allow InDesign to do is to eliminate the spacing that's creating those hyphen points. So now everything is uniform and easier to read. So I'm going to just uncheck hyphenate, and it's going to take those away. And I'll dock my panel, my paragraph panel back up. Looks good. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to resize this rectangle because it is much too large. We have all this negative space right here. It's unneeded. So I'm going to take my selection tool and notice that if I click on the rectangle, it'll give me this bounding box. I'm just going to take the anchor at the bottom and just drag it up a little bit just to close in some of that space. Okay, cool. Okay, once we've done that, what we're going to do now is create the other bits of information that go to the right of our first fact right here. So we're going to go ahead and do a little housekeeping first. Gotcha. Let's look at our layers panel really quick. So notice that we have some of the text here in under the images, parent layer. Let's go ahead and just drag these down to our text, parent layer. So we got images, we got text, we just keep things very neat and organized in case we have to go back and redo some things. All right, so the next thing is we're going to add a couple of text boxes to build out our factual index. It's going to look something like this right here. So we're going to start out with just some of the text. So let's go ahead and grab our text or type tool. And I want you to click, hold, and drag a nice box that's about yay big. Again, we can adjust this later. We're just going to create some of the other bits of information. So that factual index, that type tool that we just expanded out is going to hold 28.9. So type in 28.9. It's just a statistic. It's a number. 28.9, and our font for this, I can select the text by click, holding, and dragging, or triple click, or Control A. And the font for this guy is going to be Century Gothic Bold, 50 point. So let's go up at the top. Let's pick our friend Century Gothic Bold. And the point is going to be 50 for the size. 28.9. Again, if your text does not show, it just means that you have to expand your box out a little bit. I got 28.9 right there. And notice when you drag these things around to reposition them, smart guides are on by default. If I drag this box with my normal selection tool, you'll notice that as I'm dragging it, there's going to be these little guides that pop up. It's basically measuring the distance and the actual accuracy between elements. So I get this little green line that's telling me that this text frame right here will be in line with my other text frame that says 31 presidents. So I'm gonna make sure it hits that green little line up there, just to keep things really nice and linear when it comes to our facts. And I'm just gonna make this rectangle itself a little bit smaller, but not too small, because too small will give you that oversized text, just so it's like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another text frame. So let's go ahead and grab our type tool. And I want you to click, hold, and drag a box just about the same size horizontally as 28.9. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to type in the other part that goes along with 28.9. And I believe that's years old. And it is. So let's type in years old. Now the font for this is going to be sticking with our two font theme here. Is going to be Myriad Pro Bold. I'm going to select all that text and I'm going to find Myriad Pro Bold. So we're not using regular this time, we're using bold. Okay, and the font size for this guy is going to be 18 points. So let's switch it to 18 points. Sweet. The only thing I do want to do is I want to center this text to make it align with 28.9. So at the top here, I'm going to align center. And I'm just going to take my regular selection tool and just close in some of that space of that frame. Something like that is beautiful. So because we were still in our parent images layer, these two I can tell instantly they're in the parent layer for images because we have that red bounding box for the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and just slide over to my layers panel and bring years old and 28.9. You can select multiple layers by holding down the shift key. So I'm going to select years old, hold down shift, select 28.9, and that selects both of them. Or what you can do is hold down the control key, select a layer, select another layer, and that'll target specific layers for you. And I'm just going to take these two and I'm going to drag them down to text because that's what they are. And notice how that bounding box now turned blue because that's the color of our text parent layer. Okay, I like that. And now what we're going to do is we are going to add the image that goes along with 28.9. So let's go ahead and go up to File. And I want you to go to Place. And the image, the little icon that goes along with this bit of information is the one that says salute. So find salute.png. If you don't have extensions on or showing extensions on your file browser, it'll just say salute and it's got the little image icon to the left. Select salute and you're going to hit open. And there's our salute icon. And what we're going to do, the idea is we're going to put this icon to the left of 28.9 in proportion. So I'm going to take my cursor and kind of match with the line on the top is of 31 presidents and 28.9. And I'm just going to click, hold, and drag a box that goes down to where the years old text frame, the bottom line, kind of ends. So something like you see on screen here. So it's going all the way to the top, 28.9, that frame, to all the way to the bottom of years old, that frame. And just let it go. So this icon goes along with my factual index, my factual information piece of 28.9 years old. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this a little bit closer. Doesn't have to touch, but just give yourself a little bit of space. So we have the icon, 28.9 years old. So now what we're going to do is we are going to create a rectangle underneath this because we have to know a little bit about, well, what does 28.9 years old represent when it comes to U.S. Army facts? So let's grab our rectangle, or actually let's do, yeah, we are going to grab the rectangle tool. Let's grab the rectangle tool. And I want you to draw me a rectangle that goes from the bottom. So don't be all the way up here. Kind of give yourself a little bit of space. And you're going to drag a rectangle to go all the way horizontally to where the rightmost margins are of the other frames, something like this, and let it go. So we have a rectangle that's going to house the information for what 28.9 years old is representing. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to make sure that we turn off the stroke. We've done it a bunch of times down here. Let's go ahead and try it up here. This little square with a punch out in the middle, let's select that box right there. And we're going to select none. That's going to do the same thing as this. And we're going to go up to our fill. And I want you to fill this with a sampled color. Our samples are down here. By the way, these up here are the default RGB and CMYK color codes. They just come loaded in default. But I'm going to select a, we can always change these up later, but I'm just going to select the darker brown for now. And once I'm happy with that, what I'm going to do is take my selection tool, just click in the white space here just to kind of take a look at everything. And I'm going to click on that rectangle and move it up just a little bit, just a couple of notches up. Maybe make it just a little bit larger. Okay. So we have our text box right there, and that's going to house the information for this data set right here. So let's go on over and grab our type tool once again. Click in the box. There's our blinking cursor. And I'm going to pull up our data sheet here. And the data for this one is going to be in 2022. The average age of an active duty soldier was 28.9 years of age. Whoa, that's pretty cool. So I'm going to Control-C this, copy it. And it looks like our font for this one, we're sticking with that 2 font theme, is going to be Myriad Pro Regular. This is kind of like body text, so we'll pick regular. And the size, I believe it's going to stay at 12. Let me double check. Yes, 12 points. So all I'm going to do is now Control and V. And I'm just going to hit Control and A to select all that text because it's very, very dark. And just change it to paper. There we go. Now I'm just going to grab my selection tool, click on a white space to deselect things. By the way, clicking on white space that doesn't contain anything or the gray space do the same thing. They deselect everything. And we have it. Now, kind of the same concept. The text is still writing the shape line, so it's going to give it some inset spacing. So let's click on that rectangle that we just made, hit Control and Bravo. And we're just going to give it a little bit of spacing, just like the last one we did. So just one click, or one click, just a 0.0625. And that's going to do all around. Let's click on OK. And that's just going to give us a little bit of this padding. That inner line right there just basically represents where the text is now starting. So everything in the middle right there is just that padding or inset spacing. Nice. So I do want to make a mention that regular rectangles are cool. They're fine. However, they can be created in any program. One of the cool things about InDesign is that you have customizable options to actually change how your rectangle frame looks. So we're going to give this a little bit of flair by making it a rounded rectangle. So with that selection tool, if you click on that rectangle right there, let's go on over to the top here. And I want you to notice something new that we haven't done before. And it's this little Allen wrench looking key right here. These are kind of the cornering options for shapes. And if you drop this down right here, you have a bunch of different options to change the actual look or the corners of your shape. We have fancy, bevel, inset, bunch of different options here. I'm going to choose the good old classic rounded rectangle. So I'm going to hit rounded down here. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me a little bit of a rounded rectangle now. Just to add a little bit of design flair to this so it's not so basic. That's pretty cool. So that little Allen key right there will give you that cornering option. What's interesting about this too is that on the top here, there's this numeric value. This is how much, how many points or inches in this case, your corner option is. So if I click up on the up arrow here, it will give me more of a round. So it almost becomes an ellipse. So that's what that does right here. It's just the option that controls the cornering presets. But I'm going to switch it. I'm going to Control Z that and go back to where it was at. Just a little subtle rounded rectangle, not too much. Ah, sweet. Okay, so we have our first data set or tidbit of information for this factual index. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do something to save us a little bit of time here because we have another piece of information that goes along with this topic here that's going to go to the right of this information right here. So I want you to take your selection tool and I'm just going to deselect everything by clicking anywhere else just to be safe. And I want you to click, hold, and drag from the white space down here and see this marquee up, 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 up. I want you to group all of these objects together. So I'm going to do a multiple selection or a multi-select, and I'm going to let go of my mouse. With that selection tool, and you drag a box over multiple items, frames, images, text, it's going to select everything that was in that marquee. So you can see everything is now selected because we have these anchor points around them. That's how you know it's selected. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hold down the Alt key. I know some of you know where I'm going with this, but hold down Alt. What you're going to see is you're going to see these two arrows right here when you hold down Alt. One white, one black. That just means it's ready to copy. What you're going to do now is you're going to left click, hold and drag. Drag, 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 drag to the right. Okay. Now here's the trick. Keep everything held down. What you're going to do is you're going to let go of your left click. So let go of the mouse first, then let go of Alt. And what you effectively just did was make a perfect copy and move without affecting the original. And there we go. Because this other data set is going to have the same font, it's just going to be different information and a different image too. All right, cool. So let's do this now. With everything still selected, notice how it's now selecting the copy. You can move this around. I'm just going to move it kind of like proportionately to the right here to give it a nice cohesive linear design. And what we're going to do now is we're going to type in some new text for 28.9. It's a different piece of information. So the other piece of information that we're going to be working with is this 2,500. This is going to represent the working dogs in the Army. So where it says 28.9, we're going to triple click 1, 2, 3. That's going to select all the text. And you're going to type in 2,500. What just happened, right? Disappeared on me. The reason being is because I have to expand that frame out a little bit. So I'm going to take my selection tool and just take it to the right a little bit until it's displayed. That's how the program works. Everything is in frames. That's why sometimes it can be a little frustrating, but the more you work with this, you're going to find that how could any other program work without frames? So we got 2,500. And the bottom text that goes along with that is working dogs. So I'm going to grab working dogs. And again, I'm not changing the font options because it's the exact same thing as the one on the left. And I'm going to have to expand this frame out just a little bit as well because it gets cut off. Now, sometimes, and it's a little funky, so I'm selecting working right here because it's cutting off working dogs. You'll notice that instead of the anchor point that's supposed to be to the right here, has this kind of annoying, it's got this little overset text marker right here. And this can be a little frustrating at times because you want to work with the anchor points. And I don't want to do that. So what I want to do is look at my diagonal anchor point right here. And I'm going to hold down, I'm not even going to hold down anything. I'm just going to click, hold, and drag to make this frame larger. And there we have it. So sometimes little quirks and features like that can get a little bit cumbersome, but there's multiple ways to do the same thing. So again, I don't see my anchor point here. So all I'm going to do is just drag on the diagonal anchor and just drag to the right until I see dogs. So 2,500 working dogs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to expand this rectangle a little bit to kind of match this right here. So it's kind of, because you can see like this one matches really well, but this one we need to do a little bit of an adjustment. So I'm going to click on that bottom rectangle that's going to house the information about 2,500 working dogs. And I'm just going to make it a little bit larger, like so. And let's grab the information. So the information for this one is out of 2,500 active working dogs, about 700 are ready to be deployed at any time. So I'm going to copy that. Again, it's the same font, same size. I'm going to triple click 1, 2, 3 and Control V. And look at that. It even retains the inset spacing for us. Very cool. Now, this is your project, so if you want to center this text, if you want to change the color, you can do whatever you want to do. This is just basically the fundamentals of how to build information to create this infographic using this program. Now, the next thing we have to do is replace salute right here because this really doesn't go along with working dogs. So what we're going to do is we are going to, let's see. Yeah, there's a couple ways to do it, but I'm going to show you an easy way to do it, which we're just going to delete it. We're just going to delete this second salute right here. And we're going to go up to File. We're going to go back to Place, Control D. And you're going to find the dog image. So it's another PNG. We're going to open up dog. And there's our little icon. And similar to the salute, you're going to click, hold, and drag. Nice box that goes proportionately to the top of the frame of 2,500 to the bottom of the frame of working dogs, and let go. And there we go. Now we have the icon that matches that image set. And what I could even do in this case is maybe expand my rectangle or even move the rectangle to adjust it. So things are nice and kind of linear, symmetrical. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit to see how it looks. Again, you always want to zoom out just to see like the overall, like between spacing and between how things are lined up. And I kind of like this the way it is. I kind of like this the way it is. I'm going to leave it alone. So sometimes negative space is a very good thing. It gives those eyes a visual rest, your audience, so they're not overwhelmed. So there's nothing wrong with a little bit of negative space. This looks pretty good. All right. And I think we're going to control S from here. So hit Control and S for me. Wait, before we do that, or if you already did that, perfect. We're just going to do a little bit of file management. Let's just jump back to our layers panel. And just for good measurement, let's take some of the text. You can see these text elements right here are in the images parent folder. I'm just going to move them to the text parent layer where they belong, just to keep everything nice and organized. Now I'll hit Control S again. Okay, so in chapter 3, we just covered how to custom place some images. We used some more inset spacing, as well as kind of like arranging our factual index statistics that go along with our topic. We created a custom sampled theme. We put it in the swatches folder, and we learned a little bit about file management when it comes to our layers panel. In chapter 4, the next one, we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive when it comes to adding custom imagery into our infographic to include using Illustrator. And we're also going to be doing a little bit of cool, clever effects and options in order to build out this really nice looking infographic. So that concludes chapter 3. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I'll answer those accordingly. I hope you're having fun. I'm sure having a lot of fun, and I'll see you in the next one.